What up?
What is up, Stuart? Johnny?
What's going on, fellas?
How's it going, man?
Pretty good on my end. Pretty good. Normal day, normal work day. You know, the active duty by day and real estate investor by night.
Yeah, man. Both you and David there on the East Coast, like literally probably both got home, took the uniform off, put a t-shirt on, and jumped on the podcast. I love it.
That's right, man. Didn't even have time to put pants on.
You don't have pants on right now? Or do you still have your military pants on?
It's a Zoom call, dude. Like, who wears pants on Zoom calls?
I don't want to go down that road.
Probably better just to keep trucking.
Yeah, we'll cut that part out. We'll keep on. I mean, no, we won't cut that part out. We'll keep on going anyways. Yeah. Hey, this is what?
This is something really interesting, Stu.
Yeah.
I don't know why I never noticed this before, but when you put the cursor on one of your faces, it forms a hand. And I just realized when my cursor was on your face,
yeah,
like I had this, like almost just this super strong desire to have my cursor slap you. I don't know why. Just like want to slap you right in the mouth.
I'm gonna move my cursor off your face.
That won't make sense to anybody who's listening to this via audio means, but yeah. All right. Well,
I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this has been on a Zoom call at some point in COVID. I'm guessing every single person has been on at least one Zoom call.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's really true. Well, Johnny, what's up, man? This is Filming the Storehouse podcast, and Dave and I are honored to have you on as our guest today. I've spoken to you many times before as a fellow war room member, and you've given us some awesome briefs on everything you're doing real estate wise. But we also want to kind of get a little bit more background about who you are and where you came from. And so if you could just give our audience just a little background about who is this Johnny Lynum guy.
Yeah, man. No, I'm definitely ecstatic to be here today and be on the podcast and just talking to the audience and everything. So, but yeah, man, who's Johnny Lynum? So born, I won't say raised in Detroit, Michigan, lived there for about 8 years before we moved to Alabama. And so just grew up the son of a pastor. So I'm a PK, preacher's kid. And my dad had his own business. He had his own television and appliance repair business, and my mom was a phlebotomist, and just grew up humble beginnings, right off a dirt road, small town, and graduated, went off to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and
Nice.
Graduated from there, and I had a ROTC, Air Force ROTC scholarship, and so I commissioned after graduation there. And just kind of been going along the journey for the last 16 and a half years with the military. Got married along the way to my beautiful wife, Melissa. And we have 3 beautiful kids now, Johnny, Mackenzie, and Jace. And, between them and the work and everything that, that's where all my time goes, rightfully so. And, it's just enjoying the journey, the life journey, man. And, more and more now, just trying to help other people embrace life and kind of the wealth principles that come with real estate investing, and just helping other people kind of become the best CEO of their last name, as I like to say.
Nice, man.
That's awesome. Now, pardon my ignorance. What'd you say your mother did?
Yeah, she was a phlebotomist, so she drew blood. She
Okay.
worked in the lab. Yeah.
Okay. I hadn't heard of a phlebotomist, so that's my ignorance. My apologies.
Yeah, I'm normally the one that doesn't know those big words, but today it's on you.
Oh, so you knew what that was?
Yeah, dude, totally.
You're so full of crap, dude. You're such a liar. You thought it was somebody that studied. You thought he said a footballologist, and you thought it was somebody that was like a statistician for
studying college football at the University of Alabama.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I had no idea. Johnny, you said you had 3 kiddos.
Yeah, man. Yep, 3 kiddos, 8, 6, and 3. And takes up a lot of our time. And but it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. just having kids and now just giving back and helping raise them. And just like, okay, was I this at this level when I was this age and having to deal with all these big headaches that I give my parents, when I was that age? But it's been cool, man. It's a blessing. I can have no complaints at all.
I think the answer to that question is yes. Yes, you were causing. I know I was. So just curious, we do this sometimes. Put you on the spot. Any recent dad fails?
Dad fails? I'm trying to think that comes to mind. Not really that just stand out for as dad fails. Besides, my son was kind of, I guess you could say a dad fail or not, but he was kind of perturbed that I didn't actually get better seats when I took him and my dad to see the Lakers play in Detroit a couple weekends ago. He wanted to get better seats, and I'm like, yeah, no, these seats are fine for today.
It's first world problems, right? First world problems.
Yeah, exactly.
He has taste for the finer things.
Yeah, it's like, I want to get closer to see LeBron so I can see LeBron. It's like, and meet him. I'm like, yeah, no, you're probably not gonna meet LeBron.
Well, let me give you a fatherly word of advice that's a dad fail that's continuing to haunt me. With your sons, don't like fart on them and then think it's like really, really funny, because they will like just catch on and continue to just fart on anybody and everybody like all the time.
Oh, take it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, man.
So don't listen to that guy, because they were over at our house Saturday. So I just got back from Colorado, and you farted on Jake, dude. And I'm like, why are you farting on Jake, man? Like you're teaching my kids now. So you had a dad failure at my house with my kids.
Hey, I'm just spreading the love, dude. I'm just spreading the love. And like,
you're spreading pink eye, bro. That's what you're spreading. Pink eye epidemic. You're spreading it.
Oh man,
you're off topic now.
Yeah, I am off topic. Hey, Johnny, tell us about kind of the real estate world. That where did that start, and I guess why? What got you going down that path?
No, that's a great question. For me personally, it kind of started just with the VA loan. And I couldn't say that, it was just my old infinite wisdom that like, oh yeah, I'm going out doing real estate. But it really was the kind of coming out of college, my credit wasn't the best. I actually had to have a family member that had to sign on my lease for my apartment building. And so that kind of pushed me to focus on getting my credit together and everything. And so did those things because coming out of college, I didn't really have a strong financial literacy background, had dorked over my credit cards and everything. And, but I had a buddy of mine, who was a lieutenant friend, and he was like, J2, he was like, man, I found this duplex. He's like, I'm gonna buy a side, you need to buy the other side. And we need to do this together. And I was like, okay, cool. It was like, my mortgage would be like over $300 less than what I was paying in my rent each month. And so it was a no-brainer. And from that point on, after using my VA loan, I actually got money back at closing. I was hooked on real estate. Whether it was going up to Macon, Georgia, listening to William Tingle talking about subject to and just the whole RIA concept, and just kind of was just receive mode and bigger pockets and rich dad, poor dad. And it just kind of kept going and, kept buying properties when we PCS'd and moved. And, and eventually just started buying investment properties and creating my own fix and flip business. And
so you got started pretty early on in your military career.
Yes. Yep. Within that first year.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And this was just a colleague of yours that had decided to start doing it and kind of showed you the ways.
Yep. Yeah. And, because for me, I had just started my master's and, was focused on my career. So I really wasn't thinking about a house. And then when he kind of showed me that, and when I looked at the numbers, I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer.
That's awesome. You still do business with that guy?
Yeah, so not necessarily. So we're still great friends, but he's not necessarily on the real estate investing side or whatever. But we were just buying a house to live in and rent out, and we both still own it till this day.
That was my second question.
06. Yeah, so we've had it for a little bit, 15 years now.
Nice. Now, where was that? Where was your first duty station?
Warner Robins, Georgia.
It was in Georgia. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome. So what is it? What is your, you mentioned starting a business. What does your business entail? Where you kind of out of, what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we buy and renovate rental properties and fix and flips. I kind of cherry pick the ones that I want to keep in my portfolio, and we sell those that we want to sell. And my strategy is kind of taking those profits and rolling them into multifamily, kind of long term. And so it's kind of a business, but yet and still it's kind of a vehicle to add rental properties to my portfolio and generate additional income to invest in apartments. So, and it's kind of evolved. Initially, it was just, hey, doing one flip a year, two flips a year kind of thing, and generating extra income. But now it's kind of, we have a strategy in place that kind of feeds into just kind of that long-term wealth building.
And do you have a specific market?
Yep. So right now, Panama City, Florida is our primary market, and probably second quarter of 2022, we're going to look at expanding in the DMV area, just for the Washington, D.C. metro area.
It's awesome, man.
It's a little bit more expensive up in the DC area, huh?
Yes. I think I'm gonna dabble into more wholesaling at that point, than just kind of bottoms up renovations like we do in Panama City.
Yeah. So, as an Air Force 05 with what I'm assuming to be a pretty, probably in a leadership position of some sort, probably pretty busy on a regular basis, being in the military. How do you do all of this real estate investing, on the side?
Man, that's a great question. For me, from day one, I had to put systems in place, just for as having a day job and knowing kind of the constraints on my time, that just going in, building a team, which I do that with the Air Force. They've taught me leadership and kind of being in those diverse IPTs, integrated product teams, I'm sorry, but being on leading diverse teams, whether it's operational missions or leading complex software development contracts, you got to be able to bring the team together. And so with me, I kind of went in with that construct and just kind of hired the right people, for the contractors, and actually hired people that would be willing to teach me, because I didn't know a lot about the construction phase and how to go about renovating the house. And so just over time, just adding the right people to the team, and, eventually being exposed to virtual assistants, and being able to integrate other people on the team to kind of help all the back end stuff outside of just the pure construction that goes into renovating the house, but all the back end tasks and everything that goes into it to kind of help in those areas, to kind of free up my time to work on the business and not in it, and spend quality time with the family.
That went like super smooth, right? Like no issues whatsoever, like no problems with contractors or people on your team or anything like that. All smooth sailing.
Oh, of course not. No, it's been a learning process. It's definitely been a learning process. We've been blessed whereas that we haven't lost any money on any of our deals. Nice. Thank the Lord. Yeah, that's definitely been a blessing. And, but I always knew going in that from my job as an investor, the same thing as being a project manager is to manage risk. And so for me, I understood up front kind of what I was comfortable with from a risk profile, and then just kind of going into what type of properties we would buy and what type of properties we wouldn't buy. And just for the risk level it's been, I'll say, our saving grace, but it's helped us to be able to be crystal clear when we get presented with deals, and being able to understand if they're a good fit or not for the company.
Wow. First I want to thank you because you said that Stu asked you a great question, and he never gets that, literally, from any of our guests. I'm just kidding. He's gotten it twice before.
Yeah, twice.
But I am curious. So what's kind of the long term? So you're about 3.5 years from retirement. Are you looking to retire at 20? And what are you looking to, when you look at the 5-10 year plan, what's that entail?
No, that's a good question as well too, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about when you retire military. I've heard people that, you start talking about retirement, they get anxiety because they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out. And for me, I kind of made that decision around that time frame, 2015, 2016, when we started, like, hey, this is something we can build up over time slowly and kind of gracefully walk into. And for me, it's, that's always been in the back of my mind, where is that, okay, this real estate investing business, for as the coaching and helping people, teaching people, I've always been passionate about giving back. And because just so many people poured into me to make me successful where I'm at, just in my normal job with the military and with real estate investing. And, so for me, it's like, okay, how do I transition gracefully at 20 years? And so for me, it was just, real estate was just naturally there. So that kind of drives the decision process and what we do. We're kind of focusing on building the passive income, whereas that, we can step away once that day comes with the retirement, and not have to go and look for another job and continue to kind of have to trade that time for money.
Yeah. And I love that, because you effectively established, it takes that pressure off, for one. I mean, there's obviously pressure. You got to succeed. You got to build a business. You got to do whatever you got to do with the long-term why and what you want to achieve. But it really helps that transition. And I think that's one thing that I look around, and it makes me sad when folks are really struggling with their identity. It's not just, what am I going to do when I get out? Because, I need a job. Like that's natural. That's going to be most people, or even if you have a job figured out, can I scale it? What is it going to be? What's going to entail? But I think the identity piece of it is what really makes me, it's something that I feel for folks, because it's such a big part of, I think if you don't have that vision for the future, you sometimes lose, who you are and your identity. And it's hard to really be your best and your highest and figure out what your purpose is. And I think that's awesome and then the fact that you pour into people is amazing. I mean, I love that whole, but you're able to do that because you know who you are, you have the vision for what you want to do, you have this thing you're going to step into. And I think that just empowers everything that you're doing right now, which is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, it definitely kind of helps you put things in perspective. I'll say even just with like changing certain jobs in the military that I've seen, just from, going from being in a leadership position to a non-leadership position, and kind of taking a step back, or leading a large program, to just being, on the staff and just one of the guys. And so you go from leading 100 people to just leading yourself. And, it's a change in importance and change of level of responsibility. And, for me, that's something that I kind of, as a 03, kind of like, okay, you're going in and out of jobs, that you got to be who you are, regardless of what the title is in front of your name or behind your name, and be able to navigate and be in a good place.
So one of the things that I've noticed a lot as a part of the War Room Mastermind specifically is that the military and veteran community. I think we're all very, very passionate about helping others, like in service, right? Serving others, and once we've kind of found success, we help others, get to that same place. And so one of the things that you just did is also kind of a piece of service and helping others is you wrote a book, and you wrote a book to kind of explain your path and your way, and help to guide others on that same journey that you've been on. So I'd love to kind of have you talk about that, about the idea of the book, and then what it's about, and then the process of kind of going through that.
No, most definitely. And, in the book, I can't say that I set out like, oh, I'm going to write a book and, we're going to do that this year. But the opportunity, it presented itself, and, just so happened that I couldn't say no. Between the professor and my wife, they wouldn't let me say no. And, and I had a former colleague that had worked with me, and she's an Air Force 06, and she had wrote a book about just juggling her life with being a mom, being a full-time, active duty military, all at the same time, and, mother and wife. And, and so on LinkedIn, I was congratulating her on her book release. And just so happened, I made the comments like, yeah, I need to look into writing a book. That would be cool. And the professor came underneath and was like, hey, we just launched the winter cohort and we still got space and you can jump in. And he was like, yeah, get on my calendar Friday. And so I did that. I gave him every objection. I'm like, we just moved back to the DC area. I'm trying to lead my business virtually and transition. And the kids just starting to go to school. We're in the middle of a pandemic still. And he's like, no, it's like, you can do it. It's an hour a week. I'm gonna teach you how to write. I don't care if you're an engineer. And my wife kind of echoed the same. She's like, I'll help whatever you need to help. We'll do it. It'll be a sacrifice. And, looking back, that was in February of this year, 2021. And it's been a phenomenal journey. I definitely over-delivered compared to what I thought of myself for as being able to just put the writing to go through the process. But I'll say that actually the Creative Institute at Georgetown, they have a phenomenal program with how they go through and teach the professor, Professor Kostner, how he teaches the curriculum and go through and how they align you with the right editor to go through, and then, hand you off to a publishing editor and a publishing team, and just the whole gauntlet that goes behind a book that you would never even really think about in order to make sure that you're successful. So it's been pretty cool. But for me, so my topic was, of course, real estate, millionaire real estate success strategies, what they forgot to teach you in school. And it kind of went through I start with just going through the American dream and just identify, the cliche of, hey, work, retire in your mid 60s and, go and live, and then start living your life at that point, vacations and doing all that and experiencing the world. And just kind of flipping it on its head and just looking at the data that most people, over 50% of Americans, don't have enough money. They don't have a savings account, more or less have any savings going toward retirement when they're looking to retire. And so it's just that, looking at that disturbing trend and just the lack of wealth building and financial literacy that's taught in schools. And but on the flip side, more so focusing on the solution and not the problem, on looking at what do the successful people do, and start looking, kind of peeling back the onion on what millionaires invest in, and what I've seen from my experience with real estate. And then just kind of sprinkled in some of those habits and traits, whether it's, having grit, being able to leverage masterminds, networking, goal setting, kind of some of those intangibles that you need to be successful, whatever it is that you do, not just real estate, but then kind of getting into some of the specifics of, fixing and flipping, wholesaling, apartment investing, how to finance deals, and just sharing stories from myself, my experience, and then other successful investors and their story, just to show people that, this real estate investing thing, that these are just normal, everyday people. I'm no different than anybody else. It's just, I just set goals and I'm laser focused on what I want to do, and I make it happen, and I align with the right people that are already successful and that's trying to be successful to kind of see it through.
Yeah, it's so 2 questions here. When is the release?
Yep. So the Kindle version comes out mid-December 21, and then the paperback version will be out mid to late January.
That's great. We were blessed enough to get an advanced copy that working through. So appreciate the wisdom drop that you put into, and the effort that you put into that. And that's kind of my second question. So what was it already a course, like a program that you had already were enrolled in, and then when your professors kind of said, hey, get over here and do this thing? Or was this something like an independent thing that you did through Georgetown just for that period? Like what are the specifics of the course?
Yeah, so looking at it, it's a standalone course. You have a full gauntlet from college kids, high school kids. There was a couple of high school kids that was going through the cohort with me as well. People that's international. There was one former Navy enlisted. She was in Japan. Her husband was still serving, and she was in Japan, and she was writing her book. And so you have the full gauntlet, and it's not, you don't have to really apply through the university. That the program is kind of standalone, and it's primarily funded through donors who donate to the university and to that program. And then you go through, and it's a 10-month program. It kicks with, and I think they do 2, maybe depending on the level of funding, they may do 3 in 1 year, if I remember right, with him just kind of talking through the process. But it's like essentially 10 months. We started in February, and you have a published book by the end of the year. So kind of February to December is my cycle. And they give you every individual piece of support that you need as an author to go through. Is constant, they're teaching you. You have guest speakers, famous authors that come through and give you feedback, recommendations, and just kind of shoot the breeze with you and just sharing their journey and some of the hacks and things they do when they write books and things like that, and just publishing and speaking opportunities and things like that they go all the way through, from marketing to writing it, and to actually helping you, having designers help you pick your cover, to design your cover for the book.
That's awesome, man. Like, so one of my concerns with writing a book is and I heard you say it, you're an engineer, and taking an engineer mind and going and writing a book. And I fear that I'm going to have that same issue, because I'm the engineer background, pilot, and I'm more like just X's and O's checklist style, and David has to like basically wordsmith every email that we send out into the masses, and he changes all the the happies to glads and my spelling and everything else in between. So it's good to hear that there's a program like that. What kind of made you decide on the specific topic? I mean, obviously you're a real estate investor, but there's such a large array of topics that you could kind of focus in on being a real estate investor. Like, how did you kind of pick the subject to write on?
Yeah, so it kind of dovetailed into real estate. It was a kind of a mix between leadership and real estate. And the more and more as I started interviewing people, it kind of ended up more in line with the real estate piece of it, but more so from the standpoint of kind of teaching and just understanding, like, okay, who's my audience? Who am I writing this book for? And I really want to hand this to somebody that's, graduating from high school, that's kind of going into their career or going into college, and kind of giving them the right mindset to kind of get started. Something I wish I had, because I didn't. I kind of alluded to that, just for the financial literacy piece, that they don't really give it to you in school. If you're not getting it at home, then you got to pick it up, happenstance. And I think now is just the proliferation of information is no excuse, that, we're not preparing young people to be more successful and to be more responsible with their money, and just kind of thinking down the road and just making wise decisions. And so from that perspective, I was like, hey, real estate's been it for me. It was able to change my family tree and how I approach my life and wealth. And so it's like, okay, I can share my stories and kind of couple that with other successful people, and just kind of bring it to the masses or whoever reads it, and kind of share that with them, to kind of encourage them to kind of think about real estate, but more so think through, whatever limiting beliefs that you have, that you can overcome and be great at whatever it is that you kind of identify. Hey, this is what I'm on God's green earth. This is what I'm here for. This is my gift, my passion. And, and just go get it and make it happen.
Yeah, I think you hit some really good points there, because I think there's, not only do I think we don't learn financial literacy, but I think the methods through which we learn finances are actually counterproductive to being literate financially. And I think the society that we live in, the immediate gratification, which directly ties to credit, and if we are learning from home, a lot of times our parents or the folks that are influencing us learned a financial method that is not really, it's not real. There was not a lot of personal initiative to further that education, right? Because we hear these things, well, just invest in a 401k and you'll be good to go and then by the time you realize that your 401k is not going to support your lifestyle, you've been doing it for 40 years. And so I think there's the fact that you took action and did this is one, the content is huge, right? The intent behind it is significant, and I love it. But the fact of being an engineer, you know, and some of the limiting beliefs that you mentioned, that Stu also mentioned about being an engineer and doing it, I think that's significant too. Just doing it, right? Just doing it. And I'm curious, I know you mentioned your wife and your professor, but what was the catalyst that, was it a bigger why that you just have this strong desire to teach? Was it, you know, your childhood and the way you're raised, or you're observing your parents, or whatever it is? Like, what was that catalyst that got you? Your wife and your professor can only push you so hard, right? You dedicated 10 months to put a book out. There's more to it. You know, what was that bigger why? I'm curious, like, what really drove you to do that?
No, that's a great question, because it definitely, you hit those lulls and those down moments, and you kind of got to push yourself through. And whereas for me personally, it's okay, if I'm starting, I'm not stopping type deal. And once I committed to it, it was like, okay, I can integrate it in my schedule. I can make it happen, find the time to write, you know, to do the interviews, and it's gonna be good, and I'm gonna get there. And you know, and it's gonna be fine, no adversity. And you know, of course, there's always gonna be adversity. And through the process, my mom actually passed away back in June, and right when I was supposed to deliver my first draft manuscript, and that was the toughest part ever. You know, those 2 weeks I'm going through and trying to make arrangements and all this stuff, and then trying to mentally be in the right headspace to write and everything. And it was just it was definitely a trying and challenging, and it still is, moment. But I look back at the values that she pushed me to be the man that I am now, and kind of everything instilled in me. It was like, yeah, I can't quit. I'm like, I'm kidding myself that I need to get off the pot and go make it happen. And you know, so for me, it was just really that mental fortitude myself to just like, hey, we're starting this, we're gonna do it, come hell or high water, and trying to make it. But I had to get a little nudge out the gate to be like, yeah, you can do this. Stop selling yourself short. Get past your limiting beliefs. And I, you know, from always telling people, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's like, at some point, you got to start. you got to eat this message that I've been preaching and pushing out. That it's time for me to live it and kind of embody it. So you know, but that kind of was what pushed me through. It was like, okay, you just got to do it. Stop making excuses.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. I mean, active duty, Navy 05. Running real estate business, flipping houses, running rental properties, and now writing a book, all at the same time. And I mean, dude, it's a lot, right? But I mean, if anyone's listening to this that like doesn't think that they can do it, I mean, just it's proof in the pudding right here that you can make it happen. If you know, if there's a will, there's a way. And you know, so one of the interesting things that David actually mentioned. And by the way, you can stop sucking up to him and keep on saying like he has good questions. Dude, like
I don't want to interrupt you, but Johnny, at least I know our guests, right? He's not a Navy 05.
Uh-oh.
You tried to upgrade him.
Did I say Navy? My bad.
You tried to upgrade him, and I appreciate you trying to upgrade him to Navy, but it's just not the fact. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead with your great question.
It's not gonna be a great question. It's gonna be a great statement. One of the interviews that we had was Prince Dykes, and he wrote some investing books for children. And it was interesting because one of the things that he mentioned was, as he's trying to teach these kids about, you know, investing in stocks and bonds and stuff like that, he was also having to teach the parents about even how to like buy a stock. And it's crazy to me. I mean, it's the real world. Like that's real. And, you know, it's interesting to me that we're trying so hard to educate our kids, but at the same time, the parents are just as uneducated as the kids are. And I'm curious, like, how do we, as, you know, all of us have this bigger why of helping and serving and teaching the younger generations, our children, how do we get past this stage of, you know, kids not being taught these things in school? What are you doing as a dad of 3 to to teach your children how to be financially literate?
I think the biggest thing is just for my kids, it's walking the walk, and they're going, and while I'm walking the walk, they're gonna be walking right beside me, and I think that's the biggest part. Whereas my 5-year-old, she knows about the contractors, the business, and when we were actually in Panama City, they were all walking the houses with me, in the pictures, and kind of understand and had them licking the envelopes and and doing all of that piece. So they see the business, and I talk to them while we're riding to a house or meeting with a homeowner, and just kind of sharing the story and the reason why we do what we do and how we're helping people. And it clicks to them, and it's like, okay, you want to go do this, but you're able to do this because we invest in real estate. We have passive income. We're not working, and we're creating jobs for people. So for me, this kind of just is exposing them to them as much as possible, and just sharing, and like always be teaching, a teaching moment whenever possible. And but on the flip side, with like external, like I just recently partnered with an organization that helps with the Department of Education for the United States, with that they manage like Upward Bound and some of the disenfranchised programs that we have for our youth, whether it's at the high school or undergraduate level. We're just talking about financial literacy, and so I'm actually going down to Florida. Well, actually, I got to see if they're going to do it virtual, but I'm going to be presenting about how we can leverage accountability groups to help young people, to kind of teach, to help with undergraduate retention rates and with teaching financial literacy. And so that's something that I think that being able to have an ecosystem, kind of like, with the war room where we know iron sharpens iron, but really having an ecosystem around these kids as they're going through, and kind of sprinkling in some of this financial literacy as they're going through undergrad, that I think that will kind of give them a leg up when they go out into the real world. And so that's one way that I'm trying to approach it. But I've partnered up with like organizations with like BICOB in Atlanta last year. We did a virtual program with them for kind of some of their Upward Bound rising high school kids, and just kind of teaching financial literacy and just communication, resume writing, some of all these intangibles that you need, whether you're going to college or not. You need to know some of these basics with just how to give a presentation, how to present yourself, and in order to be successful, whatever it is you choose to do.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I think when you look at it holistically like that, when you put your efforts, I mean, the more there's just a great joy in giving, right? Not just money, but giving of ourselves, our knowledge, our experience, our time. And I think that's blessed. I think those efforts are blessed. Hey, look at that little guy. Right. But I also think that as we, as you set up those future generations, potentially give them at least a vision or a path and some knowledge on how to become financially free. I tell you, it can make such a big difference, because now you're freeing them to be the best they can be, to potentially contribute to your children or whatever that is in the future. You never know what that looks like. But I'll tell you that the financial literacy aspect is so important, and it's lacking, but it's so important because it can literally change a life. And we're not talking about being wealthy or being rich, right? You don't have to be rich. You just have to be free.
Yes.
And those differences, the nuance to that is so powerful. And I think the effort, I would love to talk offline more on some of these things, because Stu and I are passionate, especially as we, process out of the Navy and have a little bit more time freedom, but to be able to invest in those future generations of those kids, because ultimately the more healthy they are, the better they understand. I mean, it makes the nation better, right? It makes us a stronger country. It makes us a stronger community. And man, I love that. I love the, just the vision there, and the effort that you're putting into creating that future. That's pretty awesome. No real question there.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it, man. And it just takes time, and just, but it's important. And, just kind of weaving around and putting it on the schedule to kind of make the time. But I'm a true believer that we only can depend on the schools so much. Teachers are underpaid, and they got this mandated curriculum they got to present, and like you said, a lot of people they only can get so much at home, and parents can only teach them what they know. And so I think that it's gonna have to be some sort of grassroots, and there's organizations that have the charter to do it, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
So just out of curiosity, how did you connect with those organizations? Like what was the deliberate actions that got you into contact with folks like that?
Yeah. So with Buy Cobb last year, I ended up getting a request from a buddy of mine that went to college with me, and he's a teacher in the school district there. And so he volunteered the organization, and he follows what I do on social media. And he reached out to me like, hey, you think you'd be willing to put like a 6-month course together? We meet, for an hour and a half once a month, and to do that. And so I volunteered the time and kind of put that together, and we kind of tag teamed that approach and executed that. But with what's coming up with Trio in Florida, I part of I guess it was like a 5-day challenge, but I had linked up with a speaker who speaks at a lot of colleges, and he kind of tipped me off on the organization and kind of their charter. And they just so happen to have a professional development conference coming up for like all of the Trio members nationwide, for them to kind of come together. And they had workshop slots available for whoever wanted to come and present for speakers. And so I put an abstract together and kind of talk briefly about how I thought accountability groups could kind of help with college retention, and then with also with financial literacy. And they approved it and said, yeah. So that's still growing. So that's just happened here in the last couple of weeks. And so I'm excited about that, and kind of seeing where it goes.
That's awesome, man. I love it, dude. Super cool, dude, man. You're a busy man, and it's really cool to kind of hear your passions and what everything you're doing. And like David said, man, like we'd love to help out in any way we can, and we'll jump offline and chat through some stuff, see if there's any way we can help out.
Yeah, most definitely, man.
Yeah. Well, cool, dude. Well, where's going to be the best place to get your book? You're gonna be selling it on Amazon?
So Amazon, definitely on Amazon when it comes out. The Kindle version comes out is in December, I mentioned, and the first 30 days is actually gonna be 99 cents. So, and then transition to just the paperback will be available on Amazon as well, mid to late January timeframe.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll put the link to the book in our show notes. And how can people just get in touch with you personally if they want to reach out?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, Johnny Lynum, I'm out there, and then Instagram, the Military CEO is my handle on Instagram, and then my website, johnnylynum.com, which just kind of has all the stuff out there for us, like some of the coaching stuff that we're doing, private investments for investors looking for like passive investing opportunities, and some of the deals that we bring together, and then just everything that we have kind of under the umbrella with just, helping people, and just everything that I do. It's just all there. So
nice, man. David really likes Facebook and Instagram, so he'll be sure to hit you up on those two.
My favorite activities.
David, do you even have an Instagram account?
No. I fall under the Storehouse one.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. I've checked it exactly. Well, how long have we had that account?
Since we started the business.
Oh, so like 3+ years?
Yes.
I think I have gone on it exactly 2.5 times.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 0 times.
No, 2.5 times I've gone on there, and man, it was awesome. I was like, man, I'm missing out. Yeah, it's not a strength of mine. Hey, but Johnny, thank you so much for your time, dude. I think it's it's humbling to see folks like you that are not only military members that are running businesses on the side, but writing books and giving back, and just, man, I'm humbled that you took the time to be on our show, but also just completely challenged by everything you're doing and crushing it, man. And I think, you know, a lot of times when we hear crushing it, we think dollar signs, and that's not the way my mind works, man. When I hear crushing it, like just the effort to give back, the effort to have the desire and the compassion and love to try to, you know, better others through your efforts. And you're just giving nature, whether it's within the war room mastermind, just kind of, you know, sharing your knowledge bombs or writing books, dude. I think it's awesome. So thank you. Keep it up, keep crushing it. Hopefully in the future we can partner up on some of these initiatives and efforts to spread, you know, spread knowledge and freedom, dude. Love it. Love it. You're crushing it.
No, thanks, bro. I definitely appreciate it, man. And the opportunity to come on the show and just kind of share, you know, and just because there's a lot of work to be done and there's not a whole lot of people doing it, but there's people out here doing it. And yeah, look forward to the opportunity to kind of see when we can kind of latch arms together and kind of get after some of these challenges.
Yeah, man. And, you know, we're close, so we should go grab some coffee, kind of work on our best friend relationship. You know, Stu, I won't subject you to having to be his friend, but no, it's good, man. It's great.
Yeah, I'm at the ping Stu next time I fly out to the Springs and come through Denver.
Yeah, dude, for sure, man. For sure. Well, Johnny, thanks for coming, man. This was fun. I knew we were gonna have a good conversation. And you know, ladies and gents, hey, reach out to Johnny. He's obviously a wealth of knowledge. He's doing tons of great stuff. Hit him up on his website or all of his social handles, and be sure to grab his book when it comes out in the next month or so. It's a good one, I promise. We've given it a look already. So Johnny, thanks, man. It's good to see you, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys and gals, go give us some 5-star reviews. Share this, you know, give us a screenshot, share it on your social handles, tag David on Instagram. Oh, wait, never mind. You can't do that on Instagram.
Hey, man, tag Storehouse.
Tag Storehouse.
The Storehouse Instas.
There you go. And most important, go fill your storehouse.
Yeah, friends, keep learning, lead well.
See you
next time. See you.